Today on Franchise Around the Horn, I'm spending time with the two people I spend the most time with, Michael and Tyler. We run Franchise Sidekick together, and we're talking about relevant topics. We got, should MrBeast have been a franchise? We got, how's RFK going to affect franchising? And one of my favorite topics, a big old acquisition of a franchise brand.
Trying to reach my goals, got no time for mistakes. Yeah, I'm standing on business, need a big safe. Suited up, got the blueprint in the briefcase. It's go time on the grind, these are big stakes.
Broadcasting from the Franchise Sidekick studio, welcome to the Sidekick Life. Get ready for stories of passion, problem solvings, and success from those living life on their terms. Hey, welcome to another week of Franchise Around the Horn. We are going to be talking about, like always, some relevant topics going on in the world and how it relates back to franchising. Things that they happen over here, and like we are always thinking about, what does that mean for us in franchising, right? How does it affect us? How does it affect what we do? How does it affect the industry that we love? And one thing that we've been talking about, especially Tyler, you and I, for a long time, is this idea of should have been a franchise, right? We go around, we see these businesses, we see names, celebrities and names that we know running businesses or opening businesses, and we think, should that thing have been a franchise? And why? I think there's Kim Kardashians out there doing cool stuff. You know, every time I walk into a Starbucks, I think, what would this have been like if it was a franchise as opposed to a corporate business, right? It would have been very different. And one that we want to touch on today is MrBeast Burger, right?
MrBeast.
MrBeast is a beast. MrBeast is a very well-known YouTuber and celebrity. That's not doing him justice, right? I mean, he's known by just about everybody. He's got 335 million YouTube subscribers. Let that sink in.
Yeah.
Right? That's like huge. The population of the United States, basically, knows who MrBeast is and is a subscriber on his channel. And MrBeast in 2020 started a concept called MrBeast Burger. So I'm going to read something here real quick, and then I'm going to turn to you guys and ask you what you know about it. So MrBeast Burger is a virtual restaurant brand launched by MrBeast in 2020. Over 4 years ago, they partnered with nearly 2,000 ghost kitchens to deliver a menu of burgers, fries, and more through apps like DoorDash and Uber Eats. And what they were doing is they were aiming to provide restaurants with extra revenue during the pandemic. That's, you know, they had free time in kitchens. They wanted to figure out how to fill it up. While the brand rapidly expanded worldwide, challenges around maintaining food quality and consistency have led to legal disputes between MrBeast and the managing company, VDC. And the future of MrBeast Burger is uncertain, highlighting the complexities of scaling a virtual restaurant brand. Right? All right. So with that intro, tell me what you guys know so far about what's going on with MrBeast Burger.
Man, I love MrBeast. This is a person. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I mean, I got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, and MrBeast is in my house, going on TV all the time. I love the dude. He's awesome, right? He's obsessed with his craft, and I respect that, right? This guy, it's famously known, like he said he wanted to be the world's best YouTuber, and he became obsessed with it. Like he didn't know anything else besides just YouTube. And look where he is now. So I love MrBeast. So this situation of MrBeast Burger, the idea is interesting. It's a cool idea. Execution's horrible. Yeah. And I think where he failed was his partner, VDC, because that was the biggest thing that he had to rely on somebody. It's food service. Like food service is real hard, right? So he had to rely on VDC, and they did a crappy job, it sounds like. Because Feastables, his other brand, with the chocolate bar, has been fantastic. He partnered with the right person, the founder of RX Bar, crushed it. So I think he just chose the wrong person, in my opinion. Yeah. Wrong team, wrong company to execute on this. And it's food, man. It's freaking food. It's so hard to do. You're like, go open 300 restaurants at once. I think that's what they did, right? 300 restaurants at once, ghost restaurants, and they were like Red Robins. So if you don't know what ghost restaurants are, it's like you take a restaurant that's closed down or a portion of the kitchen and you produce something else, and that's how it works. Yeah, Red Robin and like some of these other ones were not good to start with. Right. So why choose them?
Yeah. Michael, what do you think? What's your take on what's going on?
It's interesting. It kind of feels like the classic case of an influencer trying to start another business on vibes, right? As young people would probably say. We always talk about be the best in the world at one thing. This is not the thing that they were good at. And I think part of it was the partner, but the biggest issue was they didn't really focus on differentiation, right? Like you said, like they're competing with some of the biggest companies in the United States, and they chose low quality food. They chose lack of control over quality, and it didn't work, right? They weren't able to differentiate from some of the best known fast food brands in the country, and they just weren't able to leverage his reputation to create a successful company. So
No, they did 150 million in revenue, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they did that's a big revenue number. They did 150 million, but yeah, I think you're right. Differentiation. It was crap. We actually ordered it. It was not good.
Right. People got raw burgers, people, lack of quality control. It's all the things you don't want, right? Like when we talk about a good franchise, these are the fears sometimes that franchisors have when they move into franchising is you can't control the end, the quality of the end product. You can't control the experience that clients have. And they made all those mistakes, right? They lost control and it was damaging to his brand too. Great. They made $150 million, but at the end of the day, it probably damaged his overall brand and it wasn't successful.
Yeah, there are lawsuits right now.
Yeah, 100% did. I mean, that's what he's suing VDC over.
Yeah.
Right.
My take on this is too often people believe celebrity overcomes operational challenges, right? Hey, I'm a celebrity. People are going to come in. They're going to check it out. We're going to lean first into the celebrity, which is marketing. I get it, right? Customer acquisition is a huge part of a business, but you can't only say because of my celebrity, people are going to come back. I think celebrity gets you 1, maybe 2 visits. Let's go check out MrBeast Burger. Let's see how it's different. Let's take a picture for my snap or whatever they're going to do, right? But if it's not a good burger, people are quickly going to say, I'm moving on to the thing
That's
that
such a good
know.
point. It gets them in the door, but it doesn't get them to come back.
Well, that's the distribution. I mean, it's a business. You have manufacturing, you have a product you're selling, but you have the distribution. Distribution is typically very hard. Right. A lot of people have a good product. They're like, okay, now what? Like a lot of people have a great product. Distribution's impossible. These influencers have the distribution first. They have to find the product to sell. Yeah. And you pick the hardest thing to sell. I mean, look at Feastables. It's a chocolate bar. Like, think how easy that is. Yeah. Go manufacture a chocolate bar, stick it in a package. They're good for what, a year, 2 years? And you're good. Like, it's so much easier to do that. Like, what are you doing, MrBeast? Like, now you're making hamburgers, perishable products, hot, cold issues, cooking issues. You probably have, how many restaurants was it? 300 restaurants?
No, 2,000. They got up to almost 2,000.
2,000 restaurants?
Yeah.
Oh my God. So think how many employees touch 2,000 restaurants times those burgers. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of employees. Right. Think of the difference there. Like,
now here's the thing, because I think a couple of times we said, what are you doing, MrBeast? Or it wasn't a good idea. I actually feel a little bit differently. I think MrBeast was super well-intentioned, right? So during COVID, he said, how do we help small business owners? How do we help with capacity? Because, people weren't coming into their restaurants, right? So he said, here's this idea. I can leverage my celebrity to fix a problem for small businesses and profit himself. But he knew he wasn't a restaurant guy. He knew nothing about supply chain. So what did he do? He went out to VDC, who was supposed to be the expert, right? He said, I'm going to bring the celebrity. I'm going to bring the eyeballs. I need you to bring the infrastructure. And VDC, they manage ghost kitchens. I don't know a lot about what they did prior, how many ghost kitchens they manage. But from what I can tell, digging into this, they failed at food quality because the audit process was not in place, right? They just said, hey, we're going to send you, we control the food you buy. We send you a little bit of training on how it needs to be done. And then they expected it to be done over and over again the same way. But there was no system because they grew too fast, right? When you grow too fast, you don't have the systems in place. There was no system to go in and say, how do we audit food quality? And that's where it failed. And then like you said, Michael, what it did is it started to hurt MrBeast brand because nobody knows VDC. Nobody cares about VDC. What they said is MrBeast is doing a bad job at creating burgers, even though he was super well-intentioned.
So VDC, like Timmy, is there other brands here? It looks like there's a bunch of different brands. I mean, they're doing this at scale. I don't know if they're failing or they're winning or not. They picked the most impossible thing to scale. I know that.
Well, ghost kitchens. I mean, ghost kitchens were super hot. Whether it was franchise, I mean, I think they still are. But whether it was franchising or anything else, ghost kitchens have been the buzz.
Yeah, I know Buddy's V-Cake Slice. That one's booming.
So think about this. So it should have been a franchise. Like, think about this. Could it have worked better if it was a franchise?
Okay.
What if
transition time? Yeah, then. Yeah.
What if Beast goes out and says, "I'm going to start off with 5 locations. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it for a year, maybe 2, test it, build the systems. I'm going to go find the best franchising company in the world." Which we know if you're going to partner with somebody, there's some great franchising operators in the food service industry. And then they do that, they scale it, and then they start selling franchises.
I think the biggest challenge is still they don't have a good product, like you said, right? Like if someone asked me, like, would this be a good franchise? No, because there's nothing that differentiates it. It's an impossible market to penetrate. And again, like his celebrity alone wouldn't get it. So I think they'd have to figure out how to create a really great product before opening locations, before scaling, because they haven't even tested it to work in one location yet. So no, it shouldn't be a franchise yet. Could it be someday? Yeah, probably, but it would take a lot of work to get it to the point where it'd be ready to be franchised.
I'm assuming their product sucked because they were hampered by what's in the inventory already at these ghost kitchens, right? Yeah. Like, think about that. Like, you'd have to have the same product at every ghost kitchen. Yeah. They're talking beef, tomatoes, lettuce, ketchup.
Well, I think
onions.
Red Robin was like one of their big partners, right? So essentially it was just a Red Robin burger with like their ingredients. And so again, like, how do you turn that into a business that people would invest in?
But if it's a franchise, you can customize everything. Yeah. At that point, you have your distribution, you figure out your menu. Because I guarantee that was a big problem for them. They had to, what do you have in your kitchen? Boom, 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 boom.
Would you invest in a burger franchise right now?
If it had MrBeast's name behind it, maybe.
It'd have to be pretty special, right? To compete against McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's and those.
But I think he's got enough clout. He's got enough notoriety that this is maybe one of the few opportunities that somebody could come in and penetrate that market. See, I actually think this could work as a franchise. And all of the food quality issues that they have, I think it's because you've got an employee there that's responsible for making the burger. And there's going to be varying levels of, do I care about what this burger's like when it goes out the door?
Right.
Right. When it's a franchise-owned business, we know that oftentimes franchisors get managed from the bottom up. They get managed from franchisee up. Food quality goes down, processes are not in place, marketing's not there. Franchisees are screaming bloody murder saying, we got to fix it, and it gets solved. Also, because other people have to put their capital into it, oftentimes it's not going to grow at 3,000 units over 4 years. There was no initial investment that had to be put up by these restaurants. They just had to make a commitment to ordering the food from VDC and following the process, which we saw failed. So in my opinion, this should have been a franchise. It should have started in major cities. They should have tested it out with a couple of locations in, New York and LA and these other areas that they were going to be able to see, can we crack the McDonald's and the Burger King code?
Yeah.
And then from there, started figuring out either how they were going to corporate own it or franchise own it. But I just think the mistake was growth too fast into ghost kitchens where people probably weren't vested truly into the long-term success of the burger.
For sure. Could it be a franchise? Sure. Should it be right now? No.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree. I think, should it be a franchise right now? I actually think yes. I think MrBeast should call us. So if you're watching here, MrBeast, give us a call. We're going to connect you with franchise people. We're going to test this thing out because I actually believe there's something here for the franchise space.
I agree. I like it. Yep. I do. I like it.
Cool. All right.
I want to buy one, but I like it.
You would buy one. If MrBeast asked
I would franchise it. Yeah. I own restaurants for 10 years. I would never do it again. But if this scenario, it's good for somebody.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. All right, let's move on to number 2. We're going to stay on the food theme. And, I guess we're going to talk politics. That's something we don't typically do here. But we're going to talk about RFK being appointed by Donald Trump and what that means, not only for the food industry. That's a huge topic. That's above our pay grade, right? But what does it mean for franchising specifically? And so I'm just going to you guys are much more educated on this topic than I am. So I'm just going to moderate here mostly. Michael, why don't you kick it off? Because I know Tyler's dying to talk.
I actually am interested to hear what Tyler has to say first.
Okay,
I'd love to hear your opinion. I don't think we disagree on this as much as you think, but I do think there's some interesting points on this.
Yeah, so we're not here to debate politics. I think that's what we want to kick this off with. But I think we use the term say brutal facts quite a bit.
Yeah. Face the brutal facts.
Face the brutal facts. And here's some brutal facts. America is sick and we're getting sicker. And so I'm going to read through some of these because they're documented. But in 2022, US ranked 49th globally in lifespan, and it's actually decreasing. 60% of American adults have a preventable chronic disease. That means it is caused by something else that they're doing in their lifestyle that is causing this disease. This is the most staggering one. America has 4% of the world's population and consumes 44% of the world's pharmaceutical drugs. And this is actually more impactful. The healthcare industry is now worth $4.5 trillion in the US. It represents 18% of our GDP. A lot of scary stuff there. Yeah. Obesity is 42% of US adults are obese, up from 30% just 24 years ago. And fast food has an impact on this, right? Yeah. 36% of US adults consume fast food on any given day. I cannot believe that. 36%.
Convenience. Yeah. It's convenience.
So here's where I'm at. I don't know if RFK is the right guy. I've studied RFK. I come from a background in health and nutrition. My wife is super integrated into this as well. I do have a lot of feelings around this, statistics around this. I will tell you, there needs to be a change. Yeah. And what's happening now is not working. And so I think by bringing somebody in that potentially is a completely different thinker, whether it be him or anybody else, it's going to shake things up. I think that's going to be important for the U.S. How it's going to affect fast food, this is interesting. I mean, they start attacking seed oils and some of this other stuff. it's really going to affect fast food. But if 36% of adults in the US eat fast food every day, what better way to do it? What better way to go to these people and say, you need to reduce your caloric intake, the quality of the food. A lot of it's not even about calories or cholesterol or anything that you want to point to. It's the quality of the product.
Right. Processed foods.
It's the processed junk that we're giving ourselves every single day in and day out. And a lot of people don't realize it. You know, you go to a restaurant, you're just assuming like maybe they have their best intentions.
No.
But they're not.
No,
like,
they're trying to save costs.
They're freaking trying to lower costs to make money. And it's hard to do in a restaurant, right? So what better distribution channel is to focus on fast food? And it's going to hurt. It's going to sting a little bit. But I think we need to do it. We got to do it. Because otherwise we're going to continue down this path where our kids become sicker, our grandkids become sicker. And I hate that for America. And so this is going to be painful. But if he does go attack some of these restaurants and other distribution channels, it's going to help America, hopefully.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm curious, and I heard you saying a lot while Tyler was talking. Yes, I agree, things like that. But I know there's also a counterpoint to this. So what do you understand about the counterpoint?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a counterpoint. I mean, I think the counterpoint is whether we agree whether this administration is the right one to do it or not, and if they're going to take this seriously, right? At the level that you just described, I agree 100%, right? It's a big problem. I think what's scary and difficult about it is, you know, our topic is really to talk about how does it impact food franchising, right? And so for me, it's more, you know, I think that the administration has a message of deregulation, but this is going to require a ton of regulation in order to pull it off, even more than currently exists, or different regulation, right? And inherently, like you said, the reason that there's so much processed food and so much junk out there is because it's cheaper. And so this, you know, it's more regulation. It needs to be enforced. You know, they're talking about reducing the FDA staff already, and like who's going to enforce it, and then who's going to pay for it is the biggest question. So I think if you don't think about the like making it happen and all the back end stuff, I think it's great. I think it's perfect. If we could eliminate all processed food, you know, there's all kinds of food in the United States that's illegal in, you know, the European Union, even in Canada, and there's reasons why.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And so if they can make some positive changes, but I think this is common when any administration comes in, right? It's like get people excited, get people pumped up. It's the marketing that they do entering the White House when there's an administration change, and it's a lot harder, I think, than people think. It's going to take a lot longer, and at the end of the day, it's going to impact. You know, we're dealing right now with inflation and higher grocery costs, and so people, I think, are using fast food because sometimes they can't afford to buy groceries, and so if fast food becomes more expensive, which by the way, it has, you know, increased in price astronomically in the last 5 years. People aren't going to be able to afford this stuff. So then where do they go, right? And so I think, you know, all regulation has a real impact on individual Americans. And so you just have to balance, like, can people afford it with can people afford not to make these changes, because people are dying and people are sick, and it's a tough issue. So I think I agree with you on everything you said. Like, it's got to be done, but how and when and the timeline, it's a really big, challenging issue.
Well, the funny thing is those stats, right? They're in order for a reason. So you either pay for it on the back end, when you're sick,
right,
or you pay for it on the front end. And you're healthy.
Right.
So you're paying for it either way.
Yeah.
And so
your quality of life is very different, though, depending on which one you make the investment in.
Yeah. So that back end of 18% of our GDP with the healthcare industry is staggering.
Right.
And so think about moving some of that money to the front end and getting people healthier foods and higher quality foods.
I'd rather use my money to buy kale and apples than give it to United Healthcare.
Or just higher quality food. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Right. Which is a well-timed discussion. So I mean, just think about the impact of that. Now, it's going to hurt franchisees potentially, but maybe it won't. You know, maybe they can focus on less quantity of people being served, higher quality. The costs come down. There's a lot of variances here. We know that what's happening now is not working, without a shadow of a doubt. So yeah, I don't know if this is the right group to do it, but I do know that there's a history here of like rethinking and thinking about different things and thinking about it a different way. And potentially they can start to regulate in a different way. My opinion of a government is to keep its citizens safe. That is the primary goal of a government. Military, police, fire, roads, schools, food, water. That stuff is extremely important as a government.
For sure.
And if they can start to focus more on that, instead of focus on some of the other crap we're focusing on, then maybe it'll help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that the real challenge is on the back end. Like there's, you know, I think it's something like 30% of people can't afford to eat. Right? They're subsidized. And so if the cheapest options for food go up in cost, it's great if people are healthier, but there's inherently going to be a larger group of people that cannot afford to eat in the United States. And so that's got to be part of the conversation too.
Yeah. And that's a bigger convo. We're not necessarily talking about how they eat at home. We're talking about how they eat through franchising. Right. So I'm sitting here observing, trying to figure out, you know, where I stand on this. And it's tricky. And I think this is what politics does, because Tyler, what you said about all the statistics of people getting sicker, I'm like, man, we got to change that, And then originally coming into this conversation, I'm like, absolutely, I believe that somebody needs to come in and make a change. But then and you kind of brought me back, though. This is where politics is tricky because now I have to prioritize what I care more about. I also inherently don't believe that government getting involved in things is usually the answer, right? And you brought up that point. Like when government gets involved, I am more of a smaller government, protect your citizens. And so then I'm like, well, what do I care more about? Then you made a great point that mattered to me. It's like the government, I believe like you believe, the government's responsibility is to protect its citizens. And I didn't really think about this falling into that class until you brought it up. But do I think they're responsible for clean water? Absolutely. So why wouldn't I think they were responsible for healthier food?
Yeah, sure.
So
right.
wow. I mean, I just went through all kinds of mental emotions in that conversation.
It's very complex.
It really is. Okay, but let's bring it back to our topic, right? Which is franchising. And so if you're a fast food or any food, I guess, franchisee, whether it's Panera, whether it's Subway, whether it's Jersey Mike's or McDonald's, how are you feeling and how is it going to affect you when Donald Trump and RFK come in and do this? Michael, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think it's scary for your average franchisee, I have to imagine, just because, I think margins are slimmer than they've ever been. Costs are higher than they've ever been. And you have to imagine there's a cost to innovation, which is required if, regulations kick in and they can't serve the food that they're serving anymore. There's a cost to demand changing and consumer behavior changing. And so if I was a franchisee and I owned a Subway or a McDonald's, I'd be worried that I wouldn't be able to afford to still be in business.
Okay.
From the business perspective.
Yep. Cost. I mean, costs are a huge concern for franchisees anytime things change.
Right.
Tyler, what's your take?
It's interesting because sometimes, like I said, go back to government. I don't like big government. I don't want people regulating me. But sometimes when that regulation comes, it forces innovation. Right. I think the hardest things happen. It's very easy, even in our business. We've talked about that last couple of weeks, to go and build more, right? But sometimes you sit back and say, how do we become more efficient? Let's rethink our process, rethink everything. Well, what if we just did rethink everything? Like, what about the raw ingredients going in? What about all these big, General Mills and all these big companies, like taking some of those ingredients out and like having to innovate? Like if they start to innovate and all of a sudden we have now a Fruit Loops with 4 ingredients, like it is in Europe and Canada, instead of 36. Okay. Like make them innovate.
I think that's good. And I also think General Mills can afford to. Right.
Absolutely.
I think like that's the difference between, targeting companies like that versus targeting franchisees that are going to feel it, in their local community, in their local store, and in their P&L, which is the money they use to support their family. I think that's a pretty different conversation.
It's a bun. Let's just talk about like McDonald's. It's a bun. It's cheese. It is meat, right? I mean, ultimately that's what it is. Pickles, lettuce, whatever it is. Those are easy ingredients, right? But it's what goes into the junk prior to getting to them, right? To lower cost. What if we just have a hamburger bun with 3 ingredients? Wow, that's great. Innovative, right?
Yeah.
What if we have a grass-fed hamburger patty? Awesome. What if we have cheese? It's actually real cheese instead of like processed cheese. Like it's very simple on the distribution side to change that. It's not simple. Sorry. It's going to be harder for them, but that's going to help, I think, if that innovation starts earlier in the process in that supply chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my take on this is short term, I don't think it will be good for franchisees because of cost. Short term, when things change, all it's going to do is cost more, which is scary, right? Because people are usually thinking about what's going to happen to me in the next 90 days, not necessarily what's going to happen to me in the next 10 years. But over time, I think it could be a good thing because like you, Tyler, I'm a believer, and I'm sure you're in this bucket too, Michael, I'm a believer that the best creation of new things is, the mother of all invention is necessity. Sorry, the mother of all invention is necessity, meaning when it is now required and it's necessary, you have to invent new ways to do things better. This could potentially be an opportunity for some of these fast food chains that I think are very convenient for a majority of people, but also are very off limits for another heavy percentage of the population. Like we don't go to many of the fast food restaurants because I don't want my kids eating there. Right. Now, if all of a sudden these regulations change and they broaden the audience, maybe you're not going to serve as much to a smaller segment, but maybe you serve a little bit to a larger segment. I don't know. But all I know is necessity is the mother of invention. I think over time, invention and change will happen. It'll broaden the audience. People will feel better about eating at these places, and it could be a good thing. But short term, it's going to be hard to get there.
Well, and these big conversations always involve balance, right? You have to consider the health of a nation and the individual business owner, and both are going to be impacted in positive and negative ways. And maybe it's good that some of this trash food goes away and some of these businesses close, because out of the ashes are going to rise new businesses that are better for people. But it's definitely going to be an adjustment period.
Yep, for sure. Cool. All right. Well, I'm sure people out there in the franchise space are like, well, it kind of felt like a non-answer, but it's just the reality, right? It's an evolution, not a revolution. It's going to take time. All right, let's move on to the last topic, which is acquisitions. We've been talking a little bit about acquisitions on this show, and there was a big one that happened last month when Blackstone, the largest private equity group in the world, right? They've got like $1 trillion of assets under management. They acquired Jersey Mike's. And so for those of you that don't know Jersey Mike's, let me just read this really quick. Founded in 1956 in New Jersey, Jersey Mike's has grown into a 3,000 location nationwide franchise with a strong emphasis on community involvement and charitable giving. In November of this year, Blackstone, they acquired a majority stake at an $8 billion valuation. Because they want to support the continued growth and expansion of Jersey Mike's. In this partnership, it reflects Blackstone's increased interest in franchising and the brand's strong market position. Jersey Mike's remains committed to delivering quality and fostering community connections under its new ownership structure. Here's the thing that I want to just quickly point out about this. Blackstone, they've got more resources, more analysts, more research than probably any other private equity group in the country. They have acquired 3 food franchise concepts in 2024 alone, right? Prior to this year, I think they've only got 2 franchises, and all of their assets, I think they've only got Hilton, which obviously is huge, and Serve Pro, which is a service-based franchise, and they've acquired 3 food-based franchises, Jersey Mike's, Tropical Smoothie, and 7 Brew Coffee all this year. Why?
Franchising's predictable revenue. Mm-hmm. It's predictable. It's consistent. They like it. I mean, that's exactly why we love franchising, right? You have systems already in place. You know what you're getting out of it every single month. That's why we love franchising so much for our investors and for our clients. It's just this at a higher level. Like, imagine what they're doing. They're buying thousands of locations. Our people are buying 3, 4, 5 locations for the same exact reason. This is what we love about it. So yeah, I mean, that's why they're doing it. Yeah.
And they're picking the leaders in the spaces, the most successful, best balance sheets. They, like you said, like they're doing the research and picking the winners.
Mm-hmm. Dude, this guy started working there in 1956. I did not realize that.
Do you realize that Subway, when Subway was first developed, they would actually go into Jersey Mike's in New Jersey and they would research it, because Jersey Mike's at the time, I think, had 20 or 30 locations before Subway was even existed. It's been around forever.
He started working there in 1956. And did it till what, 1975? Yep. Just working there. Mm-hmm. He's probably a manager. I don't know. Yeah. Bought it 1975. Franchise. So did that for 12 years, then franchised it for 12 years later, 1987.
Yeah. I mean, talk about crawl, walk, run.
Freaking 60 years, 70 years. Look where he is now. Making subs, man. It's awesome. Yeah. So I love the American dream for Peter. That's fantastic.
Well, it's an example of focus. I mean, you focus on one thing over the 60 years and you're going to have an $8 billion valuation.
And he's still there after the acquisition too, which I think was a smart move on there.
He's got a lot of that continuity. I think it was a lot in there. He's got to stick around for a while. I think there's a couple billion on the hook for him to stay in there. But anyway, going back to the original question of I think it's Blackstone, which I think there's some feelings of they're going to control all of our data eventually, all of our real estate. There's some concerns there. Yeah. But good for Peter. And I think, a good understanding for us is the effect of buying franchises is such a positive thing for so many people.
It is.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any other take on it, Michael?
I just think that there's always that risk, especially with a group the size of Blackstone, of quality going down, cost going up, right? Like they've got to make their numbers work too in order for this to be a good investment. The other thing we've seen a lot of the last couple of years is private equity groups purchasing restaurant chains, leveraging debt, and then those systems going bankrupt. Think Red Lobster, there's huge national chains that have been acquired by private equity companies. They over leverage them. They don't run them right. And then they have to close every single location. And so, I think Blackstone knows what they're doing, but I also think some of those other groups did too. And so leverage debt. I mean, I think they'll probably learn from what's happened, but there's always risks with something like this.
They haven't had a lot of failures, man. Yeah. I looked at it because I was like, have they failed doing this? They haven't had hardly any failures.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
Right.
So whatever they're doing from the management perspective, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I really like watching this. And here's why. Like, first off, if you think about sandwich wars, like who's the dominant the sub sandwich player right now? I mean, if you would have looked back, it was Subway. Yep. There was Quiznos at a time that had a couple of thousand locations before they screwed that up. Yep. Right now, Subway is declining. Quiznos is non-existent. Yep. I think Jersey Mike's is positioned to be the new authority in the sub sandwich position. Yeah. So this is going to be rocket fuel, in my opinion, when you've got these guys behind
I'm sure that's their goal is to make it.
Jimmy John's came into it. Yeah. But I think they're declining. I don't know data on that.
That's a good point, actually. I think Jimmy John's is
a little bit of decline there.
Yeah. I'm sure Blackstone sees it as an opportunity. Like if the market's in decline with the right investment, then, you become the leader.
High quality, hot subs.
Yes.
I just don't think there's somebody that's kind of dominating that space right now. I love that. Tropical Smoothie, 7 Brew, both drive-through driven businesses, convenience businesses, right? Functional beverage businesses that we all know people are moving into. So I think Rourke is a great one to watch right here. In food, in convenience, let's see what they do. I'm not too concerned about it being a bad thing for franchisees because I think they see an opportunity they're going to lean into.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because I think a lot of people in our world, they say, we even said it a little bit here, is food franchising sucks or food franchising is hard.
Yeah.
Yet we're seeing some of the biggest investments right now by some of the most sophisticated investors being made into food. So what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to watch the next 5 years of food franchising to see where it goes.
For sure.
But ultimately, my take is if I was a franchisee of Jersey Mike's right now, I would be feeling good about this.
I agree. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the Sidekick Life, where we highlight true sidekicks, entrepreneurs who've got their customers' backs, solve real-world problems, and after helping enough people, get to live the life they've always dreamed of. We'll see you next time.